episode 46 of Have a Beer Yesteryear, the show that should have but wouldn't die. Here we go for the 46th episode, and my right-hand man, as always, is... Oh, hold on. Kappa is so late. He's turned into a different person. Might remember... look at it. This is... That's amateur hour. I've had to mute the guest already. I mean, you never get that amateurish attitude from Kappa. Here we go. I've muted you again.
That's amateur hour. I've had to mute the guest already.
What have you got open? You've got open the window for YouTube.
Attitude from Kappa.
Hang on.
Oh, that's better.
Okay, great. Hey, I found out why that always happened with Kappa before. It's because he had the YouTube open at the same time as the Zoom.
That's right. He didn't mute the YouTube. The feedback loop. There we go.
Amateur.
Clint, it is an absolute pleasure to welcome you in. I'm not sure what Kappa's doing, but I am reporting it to Daniel Andrews in the morning. I don't know. I'm making assumptions there. He did say he had something else on about 2 hours ago, and you very graciously jumped in to play Have a Beer Guest of the Year. So we've got Stuart D here. We've got Mickey. We've got Kel. So good to see you all. We've got Bench as well. Craig's drinking the Dainton Amplifier Imperial IPA. Oh, Craig, it's Thursday night. It's wild. And Clint, you've just come from the Cool Rooms Burnley tasting, which I'm sure a few others have come as well. Welcome, Joel and Michael.
Yes, had a few cheeky ones to start. And also to recover from the hangover I'm still feeling from yesterday.
We do have to wish you a happy birthday. Well, we would wish you happy birthday if it was your birthday. So stop going on about it. It was yesterday. Get over it. It's next year. What are you drinking tonight? What have you got in the can right now?
Carrying on with the Burnleys, as my fridge is full of them at the moment. So
classic. I am drinking a Moo Brew Pale, single hop. You see this around. The can design's very, very pleasant, but I've had it quite indifferently because I think Dan Murphy stock it, and if you get an old one, it's not great. It's fine, but this is pretty fresh and tasting very nice, so I'm very happy about that. And it's only like 4.8%, and like you, it's in a 440ml can, which I think is a nice size. But hey, let's get started. Have a Beer Guest of the Year. For those of you who are joining for the first time, I'm sure there's many, I'm going to fire lots of clues and events of things that happened in a year in the past. And Clint, by the end of the episode, along with you playing at home, is going to try to lock in and guess the year that all of those things happened. Clint, are you ready?
Yes.
Feel free to deviate. Feel free to follow your fancy with these clues. There's some wild ones tonight. If you've got your chat open, Clint, your time to close it. You can't have help from home. So I am on the clues tonight. Kappa very graciously handed that baton over to me 2 hours ago. So thanks. I'm sure he's tuning in now. So here we go. Joanna can help as well if she wants to.
Indeed.
Ian, I'm no help at all, ever.
Well, you might be in this first clue. This is a ripper, Clint. In this year, the first ever roll-on deodorant was introduced, and the brand name for it was called Ban Roll-On.
Okay. It sounds like a weird marketing strategy.
It is, and also roll-on deodorants. My experience of roll-on deodorants is generally a positive one, except for when I was on year 5 camp, and a year 5 boy, he rolled a roll-on, not roll-on deodorants, but roll-on sunscreen, the more modern format for youngsters putting sunscreen on themselves. And he had put sunscreen all over himself and then realized that it wasn't sunscreen, it was deodorant, which I love.
Sounds like something I would do. Also, ban roll on sounds like a Vietnamese lunch as well, a little bit.
Yes. You know, it's weird because when you get a banh mi, and that's the only time in Australia where I've felt at one saying the word bun, because that's how you're supposed to say it. In every other time I'm saying that, I'm getting abuse, but not enrolled. I'm not getting abuse. Thanks. Couple of things in this year, Clint. I don't know whether that helps you, but the first "Don't Walk" sign is installed in New York City. The most ill-advised, I think, sign that you could have. Walk, don't walk. When our brain doesn't work in that way, it's go or stop, isn't it? It's walk or stop. It's not walk, don't walk. That's stupid, but it persists. What do you think from a graphic design point of view?
I assume they've got the colors right, red and green, at least on those lines.
I mean, I don't know when the first one was introduced, whether they just had, both the same color, or whether to save money it had walk and then they just lit up the word don't above it. That would work.
If that's the case. Lights are expensive, so the less is better, right?
Yeah, but the traffic lights in the UK, there was a soccer ball referee driving along, and he was waiting at the traffic lights, and he came up with the idea of red and yellow cards for soccer. Isn't that like? And I sit at the lights often and just think, what could I come up with? Green is underused. Clearly red and yellow, but green.
The soccer's or football's been around for much longer than traffic lights, I would assume.
Yeah.
And cards are a newish thing.
Yeah, but they did actually disregard this information because this didn't happen in this year. This is just to confuse the onlookers. But yeah, very look, and also in the chat here, which you can't see, Clint, Kel's just said, sorry, you have sunscreen in the UK. I'll just point out, as you can probably see, Kel, I do not use sunscreen. You can probably also point out that this was when I was in working in a school on camp, fully police cleared and everything. Year 5 boy was not, it wasn't just me and him. It was an organized trip, Kel. Sorry, you're getting me into all kinds here. But yeah, Stuart's pointed out that they do have SPF 10 in the UK. That is the maximum. And now that we've left the European Union, we'll be seeing to that it's less than 10. So another thing that happened in this year, Clint, is it was the world's first passenger jet was made in the UK. And it was called the Comet. That might give it away to some people, some nerds who are watching along. Have you ever been on a very fast plane, other than have you ever, because when you're in a smaller plane, it feels much faster than when you're in a commercial commercial jet. What? Save me, Clint.
The smallest plane I was in one of the like Ryanair ones over traveling from Ireland to Czech Republic, I think. But I can't remember anything about the speed. I think I was just scared enough by the shaking of the plane itself to notice.
Yeah, right. Ryanair came up with a concept of having, sometimes when you're at like a train station or something, and they don't have the benches that you sit on, but they have the kind of, they're on trams actually in Melbourne, but they have that cushioned area that you can just perch on. You like perch yourself, so you're not sat down. You're not stood up. Ryanair experimented with putting those in the planes instead of seats, so they could fit more people on.
What's the brace position if you're on one of those seats? You'd have to be pretty flexible, right?
Yeah.
Fully bend over.
And the other thing they experimented with was charging people £1 to go to the toilet if they needed the toilet on the plane.
I mean, that's technically an upgrade because there'd be a seat in the toilet, I imagine.
That's true. You just spend the quid to give your quads a rest. Well, also know your clients, know your clientele. People who are going on Ryanair would happily defecate themselves to save a quid. They're literally flying. You're flying from Manchester to Rome for £8. It's like, of course, you would just wet yourself. It doesn't mean anything. So roll on deodorants. First passenger jet. We've got the walk, don't walk sign. Also a world first is the patent for the barcode was issued for the first time. Apparently, this was invented, the barcode, by accident when a man called Joseph Woodland was walking along with a laser pen, and he walked across a zebra crossing and got charged $3.50.
It's a good one.
Thanks. Considering I've only had an hour to get this show together.
Oh, do you prepare the jokes?
Well, clearly they just come to me so naturally.
I think my favorite part of this show is watching you make jokes and Cap and not getting them.
I do often think that. I think, who's the comedian here? Come on. I think the gift of somebody doing their job well is that it looks effortless. And I'd like to say the same about my jokes, but I think I put too much into them to make it look effortless. We've got lots of comments as well. Craig P's already. He's guessing about jet engines. We've got. I knew that might be a giveaway. Sam Smalley's here. Welcome, Sam. And yeah. Look, can you imagine? Mickey's just pointed out a world without barcodes. I mean, did you have shows, supermarkets growing up, Clint? You grew up in Western Australia, didn't you?
It was more of a see what you can steal situation. There was no.
Well, my local supermarket growing up, to get a job in it, you had to be able to remember the price of all the goods for sale.
Wow.
Isn't that extraordinary? So like they'll give you like a 2-week trial, and then at the end of the 2 weeks, they'll go around with a random basket of goods and they'll put them on the counter, and you'd have to type in the price of all of them. And if you were like 5 pence out, that was it. See you later. Isn't that amazing?
It is, but I think it's more amazing to us who maybe didn't work there. But like any job, you can do the things once you learn how to do it, I guess. Even though that does seem, I imagine there's hundreds, if not thousands, of products to remember. But I'm sure out of necessity, you need a job, you need money, you remember the damn digits, right?
But there must have been thousands of goods. The store was called Quick Save, and they spelt quick KWIK. I
Wow.
mean, come on. It's quite extraordinary. Anyway, couple of other things in this year. We've got the first roll on deodorant, obviously, the patents for the barcode. How big are the barcodes in Aldi as well? That's quite amazing. It's just
I think I've only been to Aldi once, so I'm not too sure. But I actually deal with barcodes on a daily basis, generating them for products, and it's quite an interesting system that there is set up. It's almost like a mafia, like a barcode mafia globally that owns barcodes, and it's very hard to buy them from anyone but those people, which makes it tricky for small businesses starting up to have to pay these probably somewhat exorbitant costs for barcodes, more than you would expect.
I didn't know that. So do you think the QR code could nudge into that?
Potentially. I don't see why not, but I suppose the Barcode Mafia would have something to say about that.
Hey, Clint, me and you, right? Don't tell anyone about this. Barcodes, they've got a scan and the lines are going vertically. We could invent the horizontal barcode. Hey, why don't we do that? It's the same, but different. And then it'll be like a Pepsi and Coca-Cola situation.
The ironic thing is, if you do try to find some illegal barcodes, you can end up behind bars. It's my attempt.
For not following the code.
Yeah.
The code of conduct. Oh, that is good. That is fire. Kappa, look out. You are on thin ice. Few other things in this year, Clint. The word smog is used for the first time as London is enveloped in a no wind, high pollution, high moisture content in the air situation, which ends up being responsible for an estimated 4,000 to 12,000 deaths. People literally, they can't see 2 meters in front of them, 3 meters in front of them.
Is that a case of one of those words that are spelt like the sound that you make when you experience the thing?
No, it's a fusion. It's an amalgamation of smoke and fog.
Right, sure. That makes sense.
It's not onomatopoeic.
Yes.
Oh, smog. Oh, cool, blimey, Gavner. Oh, I've got smog on me lungs. I like the way I'm taking the mickey out of my brethren.
It's weird the amalgamation didn't go the other way and they just used folk. Fork.
that would be onomatopoeic. Fork. So amazing that it killed so many people. I'm not sure. There must have been multiple causes. Probably people, still going about their daily business. It's like a very British attitude that, even growing up, if there was a heavy downpour or a smog or fog or snow, both my parents, if they were driving down the freeway, the motorway, then if there was a downpour or some terrible visibility, they would drive faster to get through it quicker. That was the mentality. It's it's a small island. We can't, we'll just go through it. So smog is used for the very first time. A couple of other things happen, which is Mr. Potato Head. Mr. Potato Head is first sold. It was invented by a guy called George Lerner, or Lifelong Learner, as I know him. He was the creator, and he was trying to make vegetables more popular. I mean, some would argue he could have chose a more healthy vegetable than a block of starch. But fair play to him. People didn't eat many potatoes when it was invented because they're ugly. They do not look very appetizing. But yeah, he wanted to make, and the original Mr. Potato Head, they didn't have the plastic case for it. They just had the parts. So the idea was that you use the real potato to just stick the parts in, and then they decided that was wasteful for food, so we'll make a plastic version.
Again, excellent marketing attempt. Like, buy the toy, but really you have the toy yourself already.
Yeah. Or you could just get a texture draw on it. So it's still sold today, and it made it to Soy Story as well. So
he has come a long way. The Potato Head's non-binary now, I believe. Or
that was actually a misconstrued news item. They said they did approach not George Lerner. I'm sure he's I don't want to give anything away. I just assume that the creator of Mr. Potato Head would be dead due to potatoes. It's like, but yeah, apparently this still is Mr. or Mrs. Potato Head.
Sure.
But who knows? We won't go there. But actually, Clint, on that note, in this year, it was the first time that first known time that an American underwent a sex change operation. It was also the first time ever on television that the public were shown pregnancy. So pregnancy was acknowledged on television for the first time. And we also had the transistorized hearing aid went on sale for the first time as well. So quite a bit happening there. We also had the first pregnancy on TV, the first televised human birth. Look, it's a nice sequel. Most people tuned into TV to watch the prequel, but they weren't showing mom and dad having a special cuddle. Instead, they acknowledged pregnancy, and then it happened. And that was broadcast in Denver, Colorado. It was the first human birth ever televised. Also interesting in London, the smog happened, but also it was the year of the last tram ride in London. So trams were out of commission in London in this year. Obviously, more reliance on the London bus and the London Underground. Any thoughts, Clint, on all of that information?
A lot to take in. I'm assuming the pregnancy and the birth wasn't part of the same show.
No, different. Yeah, different parts of America as well, I believe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think these clues would probably be good for someone who knows things. But so far, not me.
Have you got a ballpark figure that you're operating? Have you got a kind of couple of decades?
First half of the 1900s, I would hope. I'm somewhere in the 50-year range there.
Okay, all right.
The earlier side.
Look, we've got plenty of clues to go. I'm happy to tighten up this. We've started fairly vague. We'll carry on vague for a bit. There's a place called Lynmouth, which is on the southeast. It's in the southwest of England. And there was 9 inches of rain in 24 hours, and it caused a 20-foot wave. And it flooded the town, and it killed 34 people. It's quite extraordinary now, isn't it?
In England?
in England.
Yeah, I didn't think you got waves at all there. I think you need beaches for that, right?
Oh, well, the Queen waves. She's way ahead of the pandemic because she always wears gloves when she's out in public. And it's obviously like when she shakes hands with the public, clearly they must have a special furnace. As soon as she gets in, it's like throw those straight in the furnace. The general public, terrible. KFC, Clint, you're familiar with KFC?
Yes.
Kettering Football Club. No, I'm only kidding. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Those watching from Bendigo, how many did Bendigo have? 4, 5? Gonna get a 5th. The first ever franchise of KFC is opened in Salt Lake City. The Dollop podcast did a very good expose. It might have been over 2 parts actually on Colonel Sanders and the wild and wacky person that Colonel Sanders was. But the first franchise, KFC, opens in this year. Does that help you? Does that move you out of the first half of the 20th century into the second half?
I don't think so. Unless you're hinting that I probably should.
Oh no, like I don't want to sway you one way or the other, but if it's just deciding whether like people in the early 20th century would be eaten out of a bucket.
Yeah, or whether franchises were a thing. Obviously, it's going to be after McDonald's did their thing, but I can't quite remember when that happened, despite watching the movie.
Oh, was there a movie of what was that called?
The Founder.
Sorry, what was it?
Founder with
Founder. Yeah, it was good movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Roy Kroc. I used to work for McDonald's, and actually, the year I started at McDonald's, this following year was the first ever year they posted a loss in their history. I'm not saying it had anything to do with this teenage vegetarian working at McDonald's, but I actually did a shift in the only McDonald's where the Queen's been through the drive-through.
I think you've said that on one of your shows before. That's a good one.
Yeah, I will continue to repeat that fact. And actually, Ronald McDonald was performing when I was working. It was on a Saturday. It was really busy. And Ronald McDonald just appeared in the kitchen. And it caught me off guard because he's like in this full professional Ronald McDonald suit in the kitchen. I'm literally flipping burgers and just looked at him. And he just goes, "All right, mate." Like, you were not supposed to sound like
I think it would be scarier if he rocked up in the kitchen with the makeup, but wearing like a 3-piece suit, like a business Ronald.
Yeah, he is the CEO of McDonald's after all.
Yeah.
I thought he'd done it for like a dare. It was like the work experience kid or something. It was like, and then the bloke next to me, when he walked off, the bloke goes, "Do you know how much he gets paid to dress like that?" And I was like, and I was on £3.61 an hour. And I remember that because minimum wage was £3.60, and McDonald's very generously didn't want to pay minimum wage. But the guy said, "Do you know how much he gets paid for that for a day? £2,000. And I was like, oh man, what am I doing? He's got all those stories to tell, and I'm just clinging on to the fact that I worked in a McDonald's where the Queen once went through the drive-through.
It would have been quite a hygienic transaction. I assume the cashier had gloves as well, right?
Yeah, she didn't get anything. She did not get anything. She got driven through in a Rolls Royce, and straight out of there. But
Probably went around to Burger King, got the Royale with cheese, right?
that is the monarch's choice of fast food.
I was making the joke about the Royale, but I didn't even get Burger King in my head.
Yeah. She would, the Burger Queen would be very different. Dairy Queen, she would like. But in this year, Clint, Nelson Mandela, he and 51 others infringed the South African curfew. I mean, we're lucky enough to be recording at a time where curfews don't exist anymore, but there was a curfew in South Africa in this year, and Nelson Mandela was caught with 51 others defying the curfew. I must say as well, my kind wife, she did help with the clues as well tonight. So much better than Kappa's housemate, I must say, and much cheaper. We also have the Diary of Anne Frank.
Okay.
It was published in English for the first time.
That's a good one.
They're starting to tighten the screws there. Kaleidoscope just said she got $4.50 at Red Rooster because they made you part-time. So on McDonald's wages, apparently I was on $6.65. So I was crying poverty, but really, I should have stayed there. And Mickey said she started when it was $4.95 an hour. I love that we're talking about minimum wage as well. Like, what is the lowest someone's been paid? Geez. McDonald's, to 6 months, I didn't get a name badge. I didn't even get a star. They didn't actually give me a name badge.
Just boy.
Oh, and there's a job. Yes, boy. Yeah. There's a job in McDonald's. I don't know if anyone knows. The people who've worked in fast food know this, but there's a waste bin, and anything that any food stuffs, buns and whatever, burgers, they get thrown into that bin. You don't throw them into the waste bin. You throw them into this black food waste bin, and then at the end of the night, somebody getting paid £3.61 an hour has to pick out all of those food bits that have been thrown into that bin and mark them off on a clip chart.
Joanna's twitching as a fellow former McDonald's vegetarian employee.
Trauma.
Joanna, were you vegetarian as well when you worked at Macca's?
I became vegetarian while I was working there, yes. And still had to, stack up the chicken nuggets and every single burger patty at the end of the night and do a tally chart of how many had been thrown away, down to slices of cheese, like counting each one. Yeah.
Particularly, I don't want to use the word congealed, but that was very much a feature.
The whole thing.
Yeah. Those nights literally on my hands and knees picking out that bin was quite a special.
When you're getting your first job and it's fast food or retail, I went the retail route, and so instead of counting onions, I was counting bunions, working in a footwear store, putting shoes on old ladies.
Onions to Bunions, a novel by Clint Weaver. That is one of the sweetest tales I've heard. Wow, Joanna, we need to get talking decompress about McDonald's when I was 16. Literally in the first half of my life at this time, so should have got over it. I left McDonald's I got a job at Wilkinson's, which was founded in Leicester, the first ever store in Lee Circle, which I went on to work at, which I believe is Joanna's hometown. So that was very nice. Now, a couple of other features of this year, Clint. I'm going to help you. That Anne Frank clue, I think, may have tipped you in a direction. Let's see. Singing in the Rain, the Technicolor spectacular starring Donald O'Connor, Debbie Reynolds, and Cosmo. What was Cosmo's name?
Kramer.
Oh, it's going to annoy me. Gene Kelly. That was the name. Donald O'Connor started with. But Gene Kelly was in Singing in the Rain, which is a fantastic film and musical. Probably for people who don't like musicals, Singing in the Rain is so good and so funny. It's an absolute triumph. My kids watch it now and they're so engaged and they love it so much, considering it was made some part in the 20th century. It's quite extraordinary how long it's lasted, but fully recommend anybody Singing in the Rain. Don't know where you get it. It's probably not on Stan, is it? It's probably in an op shop you might find it. But yeah, Singing in the Rain stars in this year. And another interesting one here, Clint, is Charlie Chaplin. He travels back from his home in America. He travels to London for a premiere of his movie Limelight. And on returning to the USA, he is refused entry into his adopted home.
On what grounds?
He
didn't have the paperwork.
Had a vague resemblance to Adolf Hitler. I don't know.
Sure.
Have you heard this, that Adolf Hitler modeled his mustache on Chaplin?
I think I have heard that.
So Adolf Hitler was a big fan of Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin made some films which were he was an Antifa. He was anti-fascist, Chaplin. And he made films actively humiliating and berating the German leader. And Hitler loved them. He used to get them sent before they'd been released in a cinema to his Black Forest Lodge and watch them on a cinema screen and fall about laughing, apparently. Isn't that the most bizarre thing? And he was like a proper fanboy for Chaplin. It's the most weird thing.
I imagine did come through the airport answering the questions might have proved troublesome when they couldn't hear what he was saying.
Do you think it was because he's just carrying a plank of wood?
Yeah.
Turning around. Sorry, what? Immigration.
You have given me a realm of time with that one. Charlie Chaplin existing, Hitler seeing Charlie Chaplin, and then Charlie Chaplin getting thought of as Hitler.
that wasn't strictly true.
Okay.
But he was certainly wasn't looked on fondly by US immigration. And a sad thing about Chaplin is that he was such an amazing star, and he was the highest paid star in the world by a long chalk. And he was one of the most probably the most famous person, possibly in the world. He was the most famous. But there's hardly any recognition for the amazing act he was, and the legacy and everything. He has a statue in Leicester Square in London, and it's about 3 foot tall. It's an absolute insult. I mean, it would be better not to have a statue, honestly, than to have this tiny, stupid statue that literally belittles the man. Awful. But anyway, Good job I don't feel very passionate about it. The Today Show on NBC makes its debut with the host Dave Garroway. And a couple of nuclear clues here, Clint, is the US detonates the first hydrogen bomb in the Pacific Ocean, destroying an island. Very kind of them. Don't need it. There's loads of islands in the Pacific, so we call them the Pacific Islands. Just destroy them. And the UK in the same year, they test their first atomic bomb, becoming the world's third nuclear power. So a couple of significant ones there. There's a couple of strange ones as well. Are we getting closer, do you think, Clint? I
think I'm within a decade of when I think it is, although there's still some earlier clues which are sort of throwing me out.
That's pretty good then. A couple of weird things. Right. And I haven't checked. This is one of the clues my wife wrote down. But Albert Einstein, in this year, apparently he refuses to become president of Israel. Does that sound right? Like, I admire that from a country. They've just gone, who's the cleverest bloke we know? He should run the country. Like my mate back home, he thinks that the way they should have members of parliament is they should just go into a pub in every jurisdiction and just go, right, who's the best bloke in here? Who's the best woman in here who can run who does everyone trust? Who's not a dickhead? And then they put them in the back of a van and drive them to Parliament. And it's like jury service. They'll bring you back after 4 years. And then but like the idea that Albert Einstein, you go, yeah, you can do it, mate. Go on, president.
Perhaps he was holding out to be asked by Palestine for the whole Palestine joke or something there. I don't know.
Yeah, well, look, I didn't put in the clues that Israel launched an attack on Palestine in this year. But yeah, look, we've got heaps of comments as well. Just regarding some McDonald's got people going as well. We've got the great missing cheese incident of 1996 in Montana McDonald's. Kel remembers well. I would love to hear more about that, Kel. But apparently, Craig P worked in a warehouse, and he said he sounds like he was lucky. There's
I think the missing McDonald's cheese was later found in Engadine, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Knackers.
Is that a cheesy joke?
The whole Scott Morrison thing.
Oh yeah.
Too much cheese there, I feel.
Yeah. You cheddar believe it.
You feta believe it?
You better believe it. Would be neater, wouldn't it? You better believe it. Oh dear. Stuart D was inspired by Singing in Rain, the song Moses supposes his toes are roses, but Moses supposes erroneously, but Moses he knows his toes aren't roses, as Moses supposes his toes to be. That is very well written, Stu. And Shandy said, he hates musicals, but his kids love Singing in the Rain too. And it is really good. I'm so pleased that is ratified. Also, Craig Pease asked, did Chaplin ever do talking movies? I don't know the answer to that. But But yeah, Stuart D's also heard that from Einstein, that he was offered the presidency. So good. I just can't get over that. Like, it's quite extraordinary. He said he's smarter than Einstein, the one I'm drinking from. And it's very good. I was once in the pub close to where I grew up, and a guy was having a discussion with another fella at the bar, and the guy asked, they were discussing some current affair, and the guy said, "I'm no Alfred Einstein, but this is what I think. I'm no Alfred Einstein. No, you're not, sir. You are not Alfred Einstein." So if you're playing along at home, lock in your guesses now. I might give Clint a couple of other maybe significant things that'll help him lock this down. Clint, the Big Bang Theory was proposed in the Physical Review for the first ever time by Bethe and Garrow. Do you know what date the Big Bang Theory was released to the world?
The TV show.
What came first? did they invent this theory and went, let's call it after that really awful sitcom? It could have been called 2.5 Men. The 2.5 Men theory, which is a challenge to creationism. It was on the 1st of April, which is, if you're going to drop something so significant, maybe just wait a day. Just a day. Just to, don't put fuel on the fire that it's a conspiracy. So we've got all of those things happening. Just trying to see if there's any other clues. This one might help you. One of your mates, Clint, Vladimir Putin, was born in this year. And also the first Chevrolet Corvette prototype was made, and there was a polio epidemic in the US, which sadly took the lives of 3,500 people. So to round up, we've got the first Chevrolet Corvette prototype. We've got the Diary of Anne Frank published in English. We've got the Smog in London, Singing in the Rain, Mr. Potato Head. Charlie Chaplin refused to go back home to America. Albert Einstein refusing the presidency of Israel. The Don't Walk sign, the Barcode. We've got the first passenger jet, and we've got a first ever roll-on deodorant. I was going to invent a roll-on deodorant that was shaped like the spirit of Tasmania, and it would be called Roll-On, Roll-Off.
You should do that, definitely.
So I've got too many jokes going on my head, and I'm seriously restricting myself. But anyway, we've got Shandy's mentioned the Chaplin speech in The Great Dictator, which is fantastic. But that was, he talked. That was his voice. So of course, people are being thrown around by this one, Clint, because we've got some of those clues which kind of, as you said, put you in the, before the first half of the 20th century, and then some other clues which are really stretching you out towards the second half of the century. So lock in your guesses at home. But we've got quite an array of guesses, quite a spread. But Clint.
Yes. So a little bit about my thinking. The stuff like Mr. Potato Head, I thought that would be well and truly early 1900s. Created, as well as the walk sign in New York. But then I guess the TV stuff started coming, and then Nelson Mandela's thing and working out how old he is now, roughly, or what I think, and working backwards is sort of where I ticked over. So I'm thinking 50s. And for some reason, the Big Bang one is in the back of my head somewhere as 55. So I'm going to lock in 1955.
1955 locked in. Nelson Mandela, it just reminded me as well, talking about Leicester before. There is a Nelson Mandela Park in Leicester. And, you know, they could have picked many quotes from Nelson Mandela's life. And this park was named while he was still alive, so they could have kept the powder dry. But the quote that they chose on Nelson Mandela Park in Leicester was, "There's no easy walk to freedom anywhere." I'm thinking, I've got to walk through that park after midnight. That is, you know, that is quite, it sounds like a threat. Nelson, terrifying, Nelson.
That's all the kids. Size or 3 foot?
Yeah.
Very either way, I guess.
Very scary, but all right. We have got 1955 locked in. We've got plenty of guesses. Clint, you'll be reassured that lots of guesses. Stuart D said 1954. Mickey thinks 1956. Michael's 1952. We've also got Craig with 1954. Michael 1953. Stuart changed to 1953. Should start at the bottom and work your way up rather than start. Be decisive, people. Lock it in doesn't mean pencil it in and change it at different dates. Lock in your guesses. Stop having your internal dialogue on the internet, unlike some people. Susan's gone for 1957. Kel's gone for 1952 and sticking with it, but not sure. That's what we want to see, Kel. You're not sure. No one's sure because you don't know the answer. That's the idea of it. And Kel said she thinks she's too early. Now, we might talk about twirlies later, but we have got for this year, Clint, the year you guessed 1955. The year for Have a Beer, guess the year. All of those things happened in 1952. I'm playing the music to celebrate because we're within 3 years, and that's at least 20 years closer than Kappa would have got. Done a great job. 1955 is a good guess, considering you went on a bit of a journey there, Clint. You were pushed and pulled in all directions there. There were some really confusing clues there. Probably the one that would have given it away to a lot of people was that Queen Elizabeth II came to power in 1952. She was ordained as the leader of the Commonwealth.
I thought you were going to say she came to McDonald's again.
She did. She had a Happy Meal that day, actually. Every meal's a happy meal when you're the Queen. She became head of the Church of England and leader of the Commonwealth in 1952. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Still wearing it, still going. But yeah, it's quite interesting, those clues like the Don't Walk sign, 1952, Singing in the Rain. And as I say, my kids like Singing in the Rain. It was made in 1952. That's obscene, isn't it? It's so old. Like, how many other things from 1952, apart from Mr. Potato Head, would my kids enjoy? I don't know. It was also the years of the McCarthy witch hunt in America. So Charlie Chaplin was refused entry because they said he was a communist. He was too left-wing. His Antifa efforts against Adolf Hitler and his endorsement of socialism and communism meant that he could not get back to his home despite being the most famous person in the world. KFC opening their first franchise 1952 seems way too early, doesn't it?
It does. Also, like, why do they let KFC operate when the buckets, they're full of left wings as well, and right. I guess they're balanced, so maybe they're okay.
It was in Salt Lake City as well, which is kind of like, do you have to remind people of the sodium content of your food? Like,
well, it's just a clue. One of the secret herbs and spices, right? It was obviously going to be there. Salt.
The last tram ride in London as well, 1952, and that Smog, obviously, but the first televised birth and acknowledgement of pregnancy, and the first sex change operation as well, first hearing aid. I mean, it was all going on. Chevrolet Corvette, just so much happening in that year. One clue that I didn't give you was Mother Teresa opens a home for the dying and destitute in Calcutta. Just a word of advice, Mother Teresa: open a hospital, not a home. I don't want to get you on a technicality, but hospitals would be useful. I'm saying that like she's tuning in from her grave. The saddest thing about Mother Teresa's life is that she died in the same week as Princess Diana, and nobody remembers. Sorry. Done too soon. So are we still live? What? We're recording this. So we've got Joel was 52 and stuck with it. The KFC was before the first McDonald's, as Craig's pointed out, which is quite extraordinary, and the franchise as well. But yeah, Mr. Potato Head, incidentally, was the first ever toy to be advertised on TV. Like, I quite would have liked to have seen that ad. I wonder if it's still around. It's quite a hard sell. Like the Frisbee, easy sell. Like, people get that straight away.
I think advertisers are still riffing on the tagline, actually. If you ever seen you got a door, you got a gym ad.
Oh, yeah.
Right, you got a potato, you got a Mr. Potato Head, right?
But you can imagine people like Wayne Rooney's descendants just saying, we've all got potato heads. Why would we buy one? Like, we are from a genetic pool that has determined all of us have potato heads. Leave us alone. Oh, dear me. Wow. Shandy as well has just mentioned that there is a Blind Boy podcast about KFC, which I haven't listened to. Blind Boy, the podcast, he also did a episode on cornflakes, which was fascinating. Cornflakes were invented to stop people from interfering with themselves, which is quite an extraordinary claim. I thought you had to eat them, not rub them over yourself, not encrust yourself. But yes, we will. Clint, we'll wrap it up there. We've got to go watch Fleabag. So you've been a tremendous guest. Thank you so much for stepping in at short notice. And I know you came straight hot off the heels of Burnley's tasting as well. Really look forward to catching up with you soon in person.
Yes.
Look, if Kappa's not back next week, I'll know who to call. I'll be back on the clues anyway next week, I presume.
Well, next time we do it and Kappa's not here, I'll do the clues for sure. Just give me a bit of warning.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Clint. And thanks, Joanna, as well. And thanks for everybody playing along at home. You give us power. It is wonderful to know that you're there, know that you're listening, watching along, playing along, and frankly, you're more entertaining than us. So well played. And we will catch you next time. And hi, Daniel, as well, who's just come in to say goodbye. And we will see you next time. Next Thursday, potentially for the last ever Have a Beer Guest of the Year. Who knows? We'll see you then. Goodbye. Good night.